Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna use REST template to invoke our service. So REST template has so many utility methods. We no need to worry about writing HTTP client, raw HTTP request response conversion or HTTP client converting when creating the HTTP client object. So those parts alone, I mean, at least those parts we no need to worry. So you can directly call, yeah, you can directly call JD REST template method, and you can just simply specify what what data you are passing and what data you are expecting. So it's like a direct Java object you can pass and direct Java response you can get it back. Right? So it's like a direct call. We don't underlying architecture is still same. Underlying it will be sending HTTP request, HTTP response only. But you no need to prepare that HTTP request and you no need to create the connection, HTTP connection and managing the connection, preparing the header parameters. Those things you no need to worry. Okay, if you just directly start calling this method, Spring will do that, right? Spring will internally do that, preparing the HTTP request, right? We have a template for HTTP request, right? So the template preparation, and Spring will get that HTTP response template back from the server, and that response will be converted. That HTTP response will be converted into the desired response, right? The corresponding response. So those things will automatically take care. So if it is a JSON, then JSON to Java. If it is an XML, XML to Java. These things will automatically taken care by Spring uh, REST template, right? Spring REST template itself. So let's hit our mobile service and get the response, right? Till now we were doing through Postman or we were doing through browser, but that is not the case, right? Sometimes we may need to consume some services. So how are we gonna do that, right? How are we gonna do that? Let's consume our services and print the response, right? Print the response. So what I will do, I will try like a command line, right? So main method application like that I will try. You have to convert that into a web application. So it's an assignment for you. Okay, so I will just invoke one service. The remaining services you have to trigger. Okay, so I will just only invoke only one method, get for object, like get all mobiles, and we will if required we will try one more, get mobile by ID, and we will try two, but it's your responsibility to complete the remaining service invocation. So we will be trying like a main method application. So how we can we execute a main method application in Spring or Spring Boot? I don't want any server. I don't want any web application. All our core concepts we learn like that only, right? Main method application. So how can we do that? What is the standard to execute a standalone approach, standalone method in the Spring Boot?
At Spring Boot application.
Command line runner, right? Command
Okay,
line runner. So that's what we're going to use it, right? We can do it in the main method directly, but that is not the standard, right? So our Spring Boot application has a main method. We can directly use that main method, but we don't do that, right? So the standard is in Spring Boot, if you want to perform anything as a standalone application, so we will be performing it like a command line runner, right? So we already saw there are multiple ways we can implement this. Before Java 8, it was like implements command line runner, but as for the standards, right, we not supposed to implement any interface, extend any class. So then we change it, right? So it being the problem with the practice. If you don't practice, you forget this, right? Command line runner. So start. Inside this, we wrote a lambda expression, right? So command line runner has only one method, run. It takes only one parameter, whereas, right? So we did this already. Args. So inside this, whatever you write, it's going to be the standalone execution. So this is what is the Java 8 standard, right? Java 8 standard, lambda expression with command line. Okay, so the service is started. So let's test it, right? Let's test. So HTTP colon localhost 8080 mobiles MSK mobiles 1. So you get mobile ID 1 information, right? Reprocessing. Oh, we made thread to sleep for 20 seconds yesterday, right? That's why it's blocking. Okay, fine. We will remove that code. In the controller, yesterday we made thread to sleep for 20 seconds. That it was causing the issue, right? Just comment that code. Yeah. Now if you just hit it, we added developer tools, right? So the application will be bootstrapped very quickly. So just get it. Now the response will be pretty fast, right? Because no thread sleep. Okay. So our service is up and running, right? We don't need to touch our service, right? We need to consume the service. So let's create another project, Spring Boot starter project, right? So new, I don't create, I mean, usually in our company, we do create a Maven and convert into Spring Boot, but local practicing purpose, I'm directly creating a Spring starter project. So it's going to be created from start.spring.io. So let's give the project name as mobile service client. That is what is the artifact ID. Group ID is MSK. Version, let's keep it as 33001 snapshot. So let's give some description like mobile service client microservice, right? Client microservice. And, yeah, let it be the root project is package is MSK mobile, right? Let it be like that. So click next. Let's add web dependency and let's add dev tools. Okay. Yeah. So these two are enough for us, right? So web tools and web. Yeah. Next. Finish. It will take a while to download the required dependencies. And the project will be imported, right? In few seconds. We are doing this for a couple of times, so down, so the jars are already present, right? So it's just a simple project creation. That's why it's pretty fast. Yeah, so the project is created. It will also create a mobile service client application. Yeah, that's fine. The naming convention looks good. Mobile service client application. And here, let's start writing our command line runner being. Okay, so let's write a bean for command line runner. So method name can be anything, but let's give meaningful naming convention. I'm directly writing the lambda expression, right? Let's write the lambda expression there. Okay, just do an import. Yes. So this lambda expression is equivalent to command line runner object. So here let's do write some system.out.println, system.out.println. Okay. We are executing this like a main, main. So this is what is the statement we are going to print. Okay. So let me run this application. What is going to happen? Can somebody guess what is the output we're gonna get? Everybody should try. When I said somebody said that, don't think like other person will tell, right? Like, so don't try like that. Just try to say some output, whether it can be success or failure.
It will be print on console.
We are executing this like a main method will be printing on the console. Okay, Ansman is saying we will get an output saying this. What do you guys say? This is like certification like level question. You know, in certification they will ask this, right? They will show this is the snippet. Okay, what could happen? What could is going to happen? So I will open the form.xml file. So we added dev, tools, web, and some starter test. It's fine. Maven plugin, and finally We wrote a simple main method and start. Come on, guys. We are learning Spring for almost 20, more than 20 days, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it will print uh, to the console.
Okay. Others, try. Just think. Is it the same, whatever Anshu and Sharad said, or do you want to give a different answer, like compilation error, throwing some exception, or it will skip printing this message, everything
No,
else?
the command line runner has to be like implemented, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not saying, just giving different options. You just try. Okay. Can I run this and show you the output? What is going to happen? Okay. So right click, run as Java application. Okay. I'm just going to click this. But before that, I would like to tell you something. Actually, there is another service which is running, right? Mobile service is running on the Tomcat server on 8 port 8080. So now in client application also we added a web dependency. So this web dependency has Tomcat server inbuilt, right? So my client also has a Tomcat server inbuilt. So when I'm trying to run my client application, again it's going to start one more Tomcat instance on the same port 8080. So we will get port conflict issue. Okay, the application will not be started because we have one more Tomcat inbuilt, right? Inbuilt Tomcat available with Spring Boot starter. When we run our Spring Boot application, our Tomcat is going to be run one more time on the same port where is our service is running. So let's run this code. Okay, Spring certification level question pieces. So they show that configuration in command line runner. They will ask what is going to. Right, what happened? So web server failed to start on port 8080 because it's already in use. Right, I already said we would like to run this as a standalone application. We don't want a server, right? But we need a REST template. REST template is part of web, starter web, but I don't want Tomcat, right? So what we can do, there are multiple ways we can remove Tomcat from the class path. One is add the dependency, add the Tomcat dependency. Okay, yes. So you just add the Tomcat dependency and mark scope as provided. So what will happen? At the in the final output, the Tomcat will be removed. Tomcat starter will be. So this is one way. This is one way, and another way is while defining this dependency itself, we can exclude, right? We can exclude the Tomcat. So exclusions form file is saved. Okay, that's it. Oh, sorry. Exclusion. What particular part we want to exclude, right? So I want to exclude the Tomcat. Right? So this group ID and artifact ID, just copy that and move the below section, and you just add it here. Now I will get a web layer without Tomcat. So what is happening here? We are just simply excluding the Tomcat, right? We are simply instructing Spring parent saying that I want web module, but I don't want Tomcat, right? Web without Tomcat, we're gonna get it. So now if I run this code, we will get that output, right? We will get that output on the console. Because now this time, no Tomcat. Yeah, so started mobile application line. So we removed the Tomcat. So now no Tomcat server, no port call. This I already said, right? We would like to run this as a main method application, not as a web application. Later we will convert this into web application. For now, at least let it be Tomcat application. Tomcat. Now let's come back. Yeah, we would like to invoke mobile service, right? We would like to invoke mobile service. So we need an object of REST template. Okay. So in Spring Boot, what will happen? When we add the web starter. So I think the REST template will all automatically created by the Spring Boot, right? There is one REST template object is automatically created by Spring Boot. So let's try to reuse that already created REST template object. If it is not created, we will create. Okay, don't worry. We will check if is there anything created by Spring Boot. If it is not created by Spring Boot, we can create it. We can create our own REST template. So we're gonna call REST template dot get for object, right? Get for entity, get for object. Entity will return response entity. So where you can get header parameters also. What is the status? What is the header parameters, right? Response header parameters. You can get those header parameters. Apart from that, we have another method, get for object, where we don't want any header parameters. We want a raw response, right? Raw response object. So we will get that response object directly. So the URL for now, let me hard code it. Later we will move this to a properties file. So it's going to be localhost 8080, right? 8080 / msk context path / mobiles. Let's hit get all mobiles API, right? Get all mobiles API, and the response is like, for now, just put the response in the string, right? String, JSON string. So we're gonna get the raw JSON as a string. Okay. Later we will convert this into an object. First, let's pick and see whether we'll get the success response or not. Right. So string response. Yeah, I'll mark this as raw JSON response equals to. Let's print that response on the. So it's going to be raw JSON response. Okay. We are hitting the service and we are getting the response. So let's try this out. Right click, run as Java application. It's a standalone application, no web server. It will be running like a main method and the thread will be killed, right? There we go. Auto void required to, right? So the problem is REST template object is not available, right? So Spring Boot is not creating any REST template. Required a bean of type JDBC, right? Required a bean of type this one, sorry, not JDBC, REST template. REST template is not available. Then we will create the REST template object if it is not available. So it's going to be bean public REST template. Okay. REST template. The REST template object can be created in so many ways, right? You can just do return new return new REST template. Yeah. So now we will get it. There is one REST template object which we are creating. So we no need to do any explicit auto void here. We no need to do any explicit auto void. We can just call this, right? REST template dot get for object. Okay. Yeah. So now let's run this code. Right click, run as Java application. For sure, we should get the response this time. Okay, see the entire, like all mobiles, right? Samsung, MI, Honor, Redmi Note 8 Pro, Vivo, Oppo, Nokia, right? So all the mobiles are coming, right? But actually, this is what is not, it's happening, right? At very high level, we are simply calling a method, but if you go inside, you see that execute method will be called. This execute calls do execute. It prepares the HTTP request, right? Call HTTP request. So you just go inside. It creates the raw HTTP request. Yeah, what create request. You go here. Should be Control T. HTTP components. Simple HTTP. Yeah, so yeah, HTTP URL connection, right? So open connection, HTTP method, like this, the things will be happening in the background, right? So there is a huge HTTP client API is supporting in the background for REST template. So in our point of view, we are just simply calling a method, but it is not a simple method. In the background, whatever is the browser is doing, whatever the postman is doing, the same thing is here the REST template also. Right, so this is for one object, but this is not the proper way, right? The first problem is URL hard coded, and the second problem is we are getting a string object instead of the actual object, right? So let's get the objects into the real entity model. So what should we do? We need to create one mobile.java. So we don't, we don't need to create, let's copy from service to client because we have both available in one place. Sorry. XML copied. Yeah. So let's change this package structure. MSK mobile.model. Yeah, any questions? Okay. Yeah, we don't need any XML tags, right? So plain JSON is enough for us. So we no need to get the data in the string format. Let's get the data in the terms of. Hmm. It's going to be this. So let's call the for each method, right? Mobiles dot for each and system dot out column method reference we are using. Okay, so we are getting this. The class declaration is not allowing this mobile. So let's get it instead of class. And let's run this code. Okay. There is some working. Let's move this into the folder. Press this. Just import that mobile here. Okay. Let's run this. This time it's not a raw string. It is like perfect object. All right. We are getting a perfect mobile object. Okay. Linked hash map cannot be casted to mobile. Linked hash map. Arraylist.java. Okay, so we need a generics version here. So we'll pass new array list type mobile dot class. Failure to execute command line run. We are getting linked hash map. Are we returning a map? No, right? We are returning a list, right? Mobile controller. Yes, it's a mobile. We are calling get all mobiles. We should get line number 30 mobiles for each. Java linked hash cannot be casted to mobile. MSK mobiles. When we put the string, we got a list, right? Not hash map. Then why it is taking it as hash map? Let's try with the string and see. String dot class. It's like comma separated. Mobiles. Sorry, string JSON string equals to and out. Let's do control F11. ID name price. There we go. So internally it is not converting into cadets. So it's taking the, it's not taking the internal structure, right? So get for object array list. Okay. So rest template get for object. Let me check the exact syntax. For list with generics, generic stack overflow. Okay, this. Okay, let's do one thing. Parameterized type reference we have to use. Okay, parameterized type reference. We'll do one thing. We will use array, right? Instead of list, we will use array. That will be good. So mobile array, and here we will pass mobile array. Okay, then convert this array into a stream, right? Array into stream. So how can we do that? We can use arrays util class, right? Arrays dot stream. And here we can pass mobile dot page, print it on the console. So with collections, the type inference is not working as expected. So we are going with arrays. Okay. Yes, we got mobile data, right? So we got mobile data. So collection, what is happening? That under internal generic type is not working, right? So it's not taking. So we should use this parameterized type reference and all. So it is not good to use any extra code, right? So other than our entity classes, it's not supposed to use any extra classes. That's why we are using array approach. Then later we can convert that array into collection by calling arrays dot as list, or you can convert that into a stream by calling arrays dot stream. Okay, so if you want the exact response in a list, then you can do something like list mobile, right? List of mobile. Then you should convert this array into a list, right? Then call arrays dot as list. There we go. Final output will be converted into a list. It would be safe. If you want the final response in array, only in list, then we can do this. Okay. So this is how we do use REST template. But still there is one more problem. What is that? We are getting, we are sending the URL, right? We are hard coding the URL. That is not the good practice. So what should we do? We should move the URL into a properties file. Right? You should move the URL into properties file. So in the client, we have application.properties. So you can give mobile service URL or its base URL, right? Mobile service base URL equals to this, and you just get this string into our client application. So we already discussed, right? There are so many ways you can retrieve. One is get value, and another one is environment or configuration properties. So we are retrieving only one property from properties file. That's why I'm using get value, like value dollar curly brace, and the key you need to pass. Finally, you should assign it to a string, private string mobile service base URL. Okay. So this will get improved a bit more. Right now we are hard coding, right? Localhost port 8080, all these details we are hard coding. But once we jump into the microservices architecture, Eureka, we use a different concept to remove this hard coded URL. We go with the logical URL instead of this complete URL, right? Physical URL, we go with the logical URL. So for now, yeah, let's hard code. We will change this in the future, right? At least don't read it. Yeah, at least don't hard code it now. For now, just read it from properties file. Rerun the code, you still get the same output.
Sunil, like if like can we put this URL into environment file or something?
Yeah, you can put as a environment variable.
Local
But
.env file we can create and read from there.
it is not required when we go to Eureka concept, right? It
Okay.
will be a different way we will read it. We will give a name to the application. We will get the instance by name. Okay, so no URL itself is required. For now, we are just hard coding this URL. It's fine, right? Properties file we are keeping, it's fine. So if you feel something is changing, you can pass that properties file, or else you can pass that as a command line argument. But anyway, this is not the case, right? It won't be like this. We will change it, but now maybe in the future. Okay.
Yeah,
So
sure.
now at least something is good, right? The URL we are not hard coding, and we are not getting the raw string. So we are getting the object exactly, and we are printing it in the console. Right. So let's try for another, right? Another one. It's like only one mobile by ID equals to, so let's call rest template. Rest template dot get for object. If you want to try a different method like exchange or execute, you can try those, right? Exchange or execute. So we will get a different method signature, right? So we have to say first parameter is URL, and second parameter is HTTP method. What method we are sending? Get, post, put, like that. And request callback. How you want to extract the request? You can pass null if there is no XML SOAP and all. If we go for SOAP and all, then we use this request callback. For JSON, XML not required. And response extractor also you can just pass null. And if any parameters you are passing, right, query parameters or header parameters, then you can pass. Okay. So we have some overloaded method like HTTP entity, like that you can pass, right? Request like that you can pass. But anyway, let's directly use HTTP specific method, right? Get for object. If it is a get method, better to use get for object. If it is a post method, better to use post for object. Okay, unless there is some customization required, right? Get object. The first you are sorry, I think it's get for object, right? Get for object. Yeah. So here also you can pass those parameters. Map string URL, right? So if any query parameter you would like to send, you can send it here. But right now we are not sending any query parameter, right? We are going to send only the URL, and we gonna append some ID, right? ID. Response type is going to be mobile. Yeah. You just get the data, print it on the console. Okay. So mobile by we will print this mobile information in the console. So let's override toString method in the mobile class. Every time we are printing, we are getting the hash string, right? So let me run this. Why we need to override toString method, you will understand. If I run this code, instead of printing the actual mobile data, we are printing mobile at, right? We are printing mobile at some. Let's go to other console. So we are printing this, right? Mobile at, like that we are printing, right? So it's better to print some message, right? Instead of printing mobile at hash string, right? This is the hash code of that particular mobile, right? So it's not a good thing. So let's override and print the actual mobile information. So to override toString method, one approach is right click source, generate toString, okay? Generate toString, or else the shortcut is Alt Shift long press of yes, okay? Press Alt Shift long press of yes. So this pop-up will be open. Click on generate. Okay, so any one of the approach it's fine. If you remember shortcut, Alt Shift long press of S, fine. Otherwise, you just right click on the file and go to source. Click on generate toString. Then the toString method will be. Yeah. If I rerun this code, you see some meaningful data will be printed. Right? ID, name, price will be printed instead of printing this the same value for every object. It's better to print some message, meaningful message. Let's go to the terminated console. You see, this time we are printing some meaningful data, right? ID1. So again, at last we print ID1. So this one, right? So get mobile ID. So we pass one. So that's why one ID is printing. So if we pass some this 15 and now, so we will get an exception, right? So we will get an exception. That exception will not be converted into mobile. So again, we will get one more exception here. So 15 won't be there. So we implemented exception handling, right? So that will be converted into error details. But anyway, so illegal should fail to execute command line runner, because see, the first one is good. Print all the data, but mobile by ID, while getting the mobile by ID, so we got a 400 bad request, right? So error code is this and message is this. So it's supposed to be. So how you have to do it, you have to call get for entity, right? So it's a proper way like this, right? Response entity, then of type mobile, okay? Response entity of type mobile. Here you can check what status you got, right? What status you got, and you can do something like this. If mobile by ID, or else let's give some meaningful, right? Meaningful uh, variable. So response for mobile by ID. So response for mobile by ID dot get status code equals to 200. If this success, then print the mobile ID, right? Then print the mobile ID. So just get the body dot get body um, yeah, and print it on the console. System.out.println. Just print. What is the problem? HTTP status. Okay, the status code is returning HTTP status, right? It's not a number, it should be an enum. So HTTP status dot okay. If it is success, print it. If it is not success, then um, get the error message into string, right? Error data into response for mobile ID dot get body dot post. It's not a mobile, it's error details, right? Error details. Now print the system.out.println. We got exception. Okay, let's run the code. is directly throwing exception. Bad request. Bad request. Okay. Let's swap with the try catch. Okay. Catch. Exception E. If it is success, then printable details. If it is not success, then print the error details. Okay, so we got exception 400. Yes. Okay, so this is how we should do the service invocation, right? Service call. So right now it is a simple standalone application. So you do complete the remaining two method calls, right? Save, update, delete. Yeah, three method calls you complete it. Later we will convert this into a web application, right? So actually, what is our end goal? You know, we will have three services. One is mobile service. It will give mobile information, and we will have the country service where the mobile got manufactured, and we have another service called mobile accessory. Okay, mobile accessories. So then we will, okay, so all these three services are going to be invoked from this mobile client application. So first it makes the first service call and pass that mobile ID to country service and mobile accessory service. Then it will give the clubhood response, right? So we will call only one web service called mobile client. This internally calls three services. So later we will integrate all these three. So right now we have completed only one endpoint, right? Only one service, right? So for now, just do it as a standalone application. Later, we will convert this into actual web service. One more microservice, right? One more microservice will make three calls to three services and give an accumulated response back. Okay, we will deploy multiple instances of mobile service, multiple instances of country service, and we will do a server side load, service side load balancing, and client side load balancing, right? So those things we will learn later as part of microservices. But for now, just do something like this. Okay, just do something like this. Okay, so this is how we do use REST template to invoke the service. So we saw example for get for object, get for entity. We just try for post for object, post for entity, put and delete. At least for CRUD operations, right? Like create, read, update, delete, right? So that is what is mostly every microservice will do, right? Create, delete, process, update, like this only the most of the operations. So these HTTP method specific entity methods are enough. If any method you would like to send some customized data, some customization, then we can use exchange or execute. Exchange or execute. Yesterday we were talking, right? So let's send 5,000 requests at one, right? Mobile by ID. Yesterday we were talking, right? So mobile by ID. Some let's send the same request like 5,000 requests. Let's submit to mobile controller and see how it's going to behave. Can we try that, or can we go to the next topic? If you would like to try, then
No, no. Once you want to see that lagging, right? You told.
yeah. Okay, so any questions till now, whatever we discussed? Any doubts?
Sunil, this REST template can be used for SOAP also, SOAP services also.
No, that is a different template we will use. Web
Oh,
service template.
okay.
The REST template is only for REST. The name itself telling it is REST,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. So the name itself is a REST template. It works only for RESTful web services. So it won't. Yeah. Okay, so now we will do one thing. Okay, first let me explain what is going to be happen. Then we will do that code. Okay, so it's like blasting our server, right? So from client, we will create a thread pool, right? Thread pool like 5,000 threads just for testing purpose. Okay, like kind of day unit kind of thing. So we'll create a pool with the thread like the 5,000 threads, right? And we will trigger the 5,000 request to our mobile service, right? Mobile service. So it's like a standalone application, no server here, but here we have, right, our mobile service is running. Mobile service is running on a Tomcat server. So do you know what is the default thread count of Tomcat? Maximum how many number of threads it can survive? Maximum how many requests can be serviced at a time? Any idea?
No.
Okay, so the default thread pool is 200 for Spring Boot, at least for Spring Boot. Okay, so at a time it max serves like 200 threads, right? 2,000 requests can be processed. If it is more than 200, then the 201, 202, 203 has to wait, right? 201, 202. The remaining threads needs to be wait. I'll show a clear demo, right? So I'll show that clearly. You will understand. Okay, there are 2,000 threads are processing. Sorry, 200 threads are processing, and the remaining threads are waiting. Once these 200 threads are completed, the request then it is taking a next request and processing. Right? It's like a kind of thread pool. The same threads, 200 threads, can be used to process next response, right? So next request. That is how the things will work. But actually, right now, to create some latency, right? So to create some response delay, what I will do, I'll make thread to sleep for 20 seconds or 10 seconds, right? 10 seconds. Why? Because if I don't keep any delay, I cannot show you that exact 200 threads are processing, right? So if I keep some delay, then only I can make you understand, okay, there is something happening, right? So there are at a time only 200 responses, right? There are only 200 responses are getting printed, right? So something like that I can show you. So to show you that exactly 200 threads are processing at a time. So what I will do, I will just remove this code better instead of reformat, right? So I call time unit, okay, time unit dot seconds, okay, dot sleep. So we are making every thread to sleep for 10 seconds, and just wrap with the try catch, right? Try catch, surround with try catch, yeah. So what is going to happen? You send a request one, the first request comes, and we are making this thread to sleep for 10 seconds. So this first request will be given response back after 10 seconds, because minimum 10 seconds we are making thread to sleep. So if you send 5,000 threads, so first there are like 200 threads will be taking. The Tomcat will take first 200 threads, and all these 200 threads will be sleeping, right? All these 200 threads will be sleeping for 10 seconds. So there is some 10 seconds latency. Once 10 seconds completed, within fraction of seconds, right? Milliseconds, that those 10 like 10 seconds, sorry, 10 threads will give the response back to the server, right? Once the 200 threads are completed, it will go and take the next 200, right? It's like actually from, so the architecture, how you have to understand, from client side. So from client side, you are triggering 5,000 threads, no doubt at all. But actually server can't serve all the 5,000 threads, right? So it just put in a queue, right? First of all these 5,000 requests will be put in a queue. From that queue, it will take 200 threads, right? So it's like there is a queue, right? At server side, there is a queue. So all these 5,000 threads will be put inside this queue, right? So all like they will be piled up. So it will take 200 from this 200 request it will take, and it will try to process. As part of process, what will happen? It will, like we are making thread to sleep for 10 seconds. All these 200 threads will sleep for 10 seconds. Once the 10 seconds timeout happens, these 200 response will be flashing back to the client. So like you see that there is a clear delay. You get responses like with 10 seconds delay, you get 200 responses printed on the client console. Okay. So first batch completed, so it go and take the next batch next to 200 requests, then it will assign the task. Then what is happening, this 200 threads again has to sleep for again for one more time 10 seconds, right? So again there is a delay in the response, right? Client side. So for after 10 seconds you got the first batch response, and the second batch will be responded next after next 10 seconds, right? So because we kept this 10 seconds delay, right? So first we send the 5000 threads. First we send the 5000 threads. So all these 5000 threads are stored, right? All these 5000 threads are stored in a queue. It will take first batch, right? First batch 200 threads, because maximum thread pool size is 200. So it will take 200 requests from this thread request pool, right? Request pool. So it will take 200. It will try to process, but as part of response processing, we are making each thread to sleep for 10 seconds. So you will get first batch response completed in 10 seconds. So first 10 seconds you have to wait to get the first 200 responses. So again, second 200 responses you will get it after 10 seconds. Like one more time 200. So let's make it 1000 requests instead of 5000. Let's make it 1000 requests, right? So let's send 1000 requests. So you will get 5 batches response in 5 batches. So every batch is going to have 200 responses, and every batch is going to have 10 seconds delay in the response. Did you get what I'm trying to explain? Or else they explain you where you can able to understand in that way?
No, got getting it, right? Like, nothing.
What about others? Like Chintesh, do you get what I'm trying to explain here? Okay, you do think like that, right? You do think like this way, like you might have went to Tirupati, right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in Tirupati, how exactly the devotees will be sending to visit, I mean just for darshan, God darshan? Like there are like 10,000 people may come, 15,000 people may come, right? So they can't send all 10,000, 20,000 people at one go. So what we have, like rooms, right? Waiting rooms we have. So like room number 1, right? Room number 2, like this. There are a couple of rooms we will have, right? Yes. So let's consider like this, right? So our God is like our response controller method, right? So here is my uh, Lord Venkateshwara, who is my controller request mapping method. So if you send all 5000 requests, your server will not send all 5000 requests into the darshan, right? It won't be possible. That it, because our thread pool maximum count itself is 200. So in that room, maximum there are only 200 people can adjust, right? Maximum 200 people, or else maximum 500 people if it is. I don't know exact count of that temple, but just telling in the comparison of server, because server thread pool count maximum is 200 threads, right? So at a time you can send maximum 200 people into that room. So now you got 1000 people, right? 1000 people. So you can't send all 1000 people into the darshan directly. What will happen? So there might be some, right? Some kind of issue will be generated, like more rush, right? Then it will be problem. Then what we will do? We will accommodate these people into different compartments, right? So this is like compartment 1, right? And compartment 2, compartment 3, compartment 4, right? Compartment 5. This is compartment 6, like that you just assume, right? So okay, now you got 1000 people. So we don't send 1000 directly to the darshan. What we will do? We will put first 200 people, right? 200 people in the first compartment, right? I think it's like, yeah. So it's like 200 here, 200 here, 200 here, and 200 here, right? So like this we will accommodate. So we will release first batch for the darshan, right? We will release first batch for the darshan. Once the first batch completes darshan and they left this temple, right? They left the temple, then we will release the next batch. Okay, so like in let's compare with now this with our application, the scenario with what I'm explaining. Now you send 10,000 threads, right? Now you send 1,000 threads, but your server cannot accommodate 1,000 threads at one go, right? It cannot accommodate all 1,000 threads one go. What it will do, it will put it in a queue like this compartment, right? 200 200 200 batch, it will put it in a queue. So once the first batch, the 200 threads completes the request processing, then it will pass for the next batch, right? So once this, it will send 200 threads to 200 requests to the controller method, right? How we are sending 200 people first batch to the darshan. Once the first batch completes, right? Once the first batch completes, then we will send the second batch, right? So once the first 200 threads completes, then we send the next 200 people, right? Next batch 200. So like this, there are like this. If you send 1,000 people, like there are 4-5 batches will be, right? 5 batches will be visiting the gods in a different group way, and obviously there might be some delay, right? Because I mean, if you go to Tirumala after traveling like for so many hours, and after trekking, right, the temple walking, so at least you spend minimum 10 seconds, right, in front of the god. You just open your eyes and you just do a proper darshan, right? So it's not like rush 1-2 seconds, you cannot do it, right? At least minimum 10 seconds delay. That is what we did here, right? In the controller we are making thread to sleep for 10 seconds because we are giving proper 10 seconds time for each devotee to have a proper darshan, right? So once the 10 seconds completes, we will send, okay, completed boss, go. Next people will come, right? So like this, we are sending the people. So first we send 200, then next 200, third 200, fourth 200, and 50. So like this process will continue, right? This process will continue. We keep on get requests, we will keep on process it by keeping in the queue. Okay. So that is what I'm trying to explain here. So it's the same thing in our application also. Even though we are sending 1,000 requests, okay, your server will not be able to process all the 1,000 requests in one go. First, it will keep all 1,000 requests in a queue, and it will take a batch of 200 and send it to the controller, right? Like temple, the actual temple. But here we are making, right? We are giving sufficient buffer, like buffer time, right? 10 seconds. At least minimum every devotee should get 10 seconds because he has spent like lot of time and traveling, and right. So we will give sufficient time, like 10 seconds. Yeah, that is what we are doing here. 10 seconds sleep. Then later we are sending them, right? So first 200 threads will be responded back to you, like with the 10 seconds delay. Then second batch will come, right? Once the first batch is completed, then Tomcat, right, our management people, right, Tomcat will take and send the next batch, next to 200 threads. But again 10 seconds delay, right? So the same thing here also. First compartment people you send, then they will wait, they will be there in the temple for 10 seconds, right? They will be there in the temple for 10 seconds. So the first batch will be stepping out from the temple after 200, I mean, after 10 seconds. Again we send the next batch, right? We will send the next batch. So there is a delay, latency, right? 10 seconds delay, but it's like a batch processing. 200 threads like a batch processing. Is it clear? Still
Yes.
confused?
No.
No, you understood without example, but I'm asking others.
Yes, Sunil, it is clear.
Yeah. Vijay, any doubts? Hari, Jega, Chupudi, Madhu. I'll show this clearly, right? I will execute the code and show you. But before that, we should get some visualization. So what is going to happen now? What we're going to see, the output. So, right? So it's like you can easily compare with this example, right? So compartments, we will put the people and we send compartment by compartment, like 200 people, and they will stay in the temple for 10 seconds. That is what is the sleep we put it here. Is it clear? Shall I run the code and show you?
Sure, Sunil.
Okay, so in the application, we need to submit 1,000 requests, right? So one go. So let me create some thread pool. So let's create some thread pool executor framework we're going to use. Executor service. This is my thread pool, right? Equals to executors to be. Yeah, executor dot, we get the class name. It's executors. Yeah, executors dot fixed. Yeah, new fixed thread pool. Okay, new fixed thread pool. Let's create a thread pool with the size 1000. We are creating 1000 threads. Let's um, let's shut down them. Right, once we are done with the task. Let's close the thread pool. Okay, so here this is my task, right? I want to submit this as each task. So let's remove this try catch. Let's test the positive scenario. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. So here we are going to hit this URL for 1000 times, right? This is one task. So how can we submit as a task to runnable? We should convert this into a, sorry, how can we submit this into a through this thread pool? So we should convert this into a runnable, right? So new runnable. We don't okay, anything is fine. You can write a lambda expression, or else you can write an anonymous inner class. So this each task is one runnable. So let's assign this to runnable, right? Task. Okay, task. So I want to create 1000 tasks. So let's create int I equals to 0, I less than 1000, I plus plus, right? So this will be looped for 1000 times. So 1000 tasks will be created, right? We got 1000 devotees, right? 1000 devotees, yes. So now let's submit this task, right? Once you create the task, let's submit the task. Dot submit run task, right? Submit. Yeah, we will like very fastly we will be submitting, right? Very fastly we will be submitting, like within fraction of seconds this task will be completed. But at server side, the problem here is, right, the server side, what is the problem? How much fastly we are submitting the task, that much fastly the task will not be executed, completed. Minimum 10 seconds time it will take, right? Let's increase the time. Minimum 20 seconds. Each task you will get with the delay response, right? 20 seconds. So even though you are submitting 1000 requests, right? So we are submitting 1000 requests. Each request will take more than 20 seconds time. Each request we are taking more than 1 second. So we are implementing multi-threading to submit the task, not to process the task, right? So these two are two different applications. So in the client side, we are creating 1000 threads, and through each thread we are submitting task, right? We created 1000 threads, and we are submitting each task by each thread. But server side, it's like a server. Server is going to have fixed number of threads, like 200 threads. How many number of requests you are submitting, it doesn't matter. At a time, only 200 requests will be processed. That is what is here I explained. Even though there are 1000 devotees are coming, we can't send all 1000 devotees to the temple. We will put them in a compartment and we will send batch by batch. That is what is going to be happening in the server also. Okay, so we can't send all 1000 requests or all 1000 devotees at one go, because the capacity of Spring Boot Tomcat is maximum 200 threads, so it can serve only 200 requests. Yes, so we're going to send like batch by batch, like not we Tomcat will send, right? This temple management people like consider Tomcat will send 200. So once the 200 threads completes the response, right? Once the 200 devotees completes the darshan, then we will send the next 200 people, right? So here also it's same concept. Once the first 200 requests complete the response generation and flushing, then it will process next to 200, right? Tomcat will process next to 200 threads. So here also it is same, right? First we will send 200, like Tomcat will send 200 people to devotee darshan. Once the darshan is completed, you get next to 200 people sending to the darshan. Okay. Now let's run this code. I think the server is running. Okay, it's not running, right? So let's start the server first. Okay, let me add some sysouts here. We get the task. Yeah, we are printing, right? So we will add some space, okay, for each response processing. Okay, let's start the service, which is a mobile, not client application. First, let's start the service, right? Mobile service. You have to start. Yeah, the service is started. Okay, service is started. It's running on port 88. Let's send one devotee, right? Let's send one request. We'll see how much time each request is taking. Minimum 20 seconds, because we are making sleep read to sleep for 20 seconds, right? So you get the response after 20 seconds. You get the response after 20 seconds only, right? Each devotee will be there in the temple for 20 seconds. Once the 20 seconds completes, you get the response. Yeah, so see, it took 20.37 seconds, right? 20.37 seconds minimum. If you send one more devotee, again it will take 20 seconds. You can implement this naming convention, everything. Devotee controller, temple controller, you can send devotee request. You can change the naming convention also. Okay, so each devotee will stay in temple for 20 seconds. That's what is happening here. Yes, so 20.02 seconds, right? So minimum time response time is 20 seconds, because we felt like, okay, minimum 20 seconds, we would like to minimum 20 seconds we were planning to put the devotee in the temple, right? So that is what we felt. Now let's go ahead and start our client application. Right click, run as Java application. So we're going to trigger 1000 requests. So the application is started, but you get the response in like batch by batch. So yeah, so first 200 requests are submitted. Okay, first 200 requests are submitted. All 200 threads are in sleeping mode. Okay, you will get those responses back in the client application. See, we submitted 1000 from client side. Okay, see, we get a batch. There is a batch response came. Let me take all this. You see the 200 lines here exactly. Okay, so let me take all this, put it here. Okay, let me remove these extra lines. Control H, replace all. Okay, let's see, exactly you have 400 lines, right? So there is a line gap. If I remove all this, you see exactly 200 difference, right? So you see exactly 399, right? 399. So because there is a line gap, so you can just we can just remove this line gap also. So Control H, let's replace all. One second. /or/n, replace with /n. Let's remove two lines separated and put one line. It's not working.
No issues, Sunil. I understood. Okay, just
There we go. Okay, So see, we got only 200 responses. If we go back, now we would have got next to 200, right? So still application is running, right? The application, yeah, it completed, right? 5 batches are completed. It's going to be a batch by batch process, right? Batch by batch process. For every batch, right? For every batch, there are only 200 requests will be served, right? There are only 200 requests will be served, right? So let me remove this extra line. I thought it create some meaningful, but it is creating confusion. So let the server is still running. I'm going to start the client again. One more 1,000 requests we are submitting. Okay, done. We are done with submitting 1,000 requests. Let's go to client. So we have submitted client 1,000 requests. It will wait 20 seconds to first batch to be completed. Right, first batching in they are doing. I mean, they are in Darshan. So now you take this, put it here, you see exact 200, right? 200. So first batch completed. Let me put some line separator. Okay, so now next time you will get one more 200 process. Yeah, so next 200 processed. We can take it for one more time. Again, this batch count is 200. Right, so let me open new window. So exact 200. I told, right, 200 by 200 process. So why it is 200? Because we have exactly, yeah, so third batch. So third batch completed. So you see one more 200. For sure it will be 200 only. So like this, like now next batch, like fourth batch, you will get the response as a fourth batch. Yeah, like one more time 200 processing. Yeah, the last batch. So now the last batch is processing. Let's go to client. Okay, so we sent 1,000 requests, right? So this is the last batch. Once the last batch processing completes, so our application got shut down, right? So even though we sent 1,000 requests, all 1,000 will not be processed in one go, right? We will just go and see for every 200 lines, there is a line separator, right? So this is the first batch, and next 200, this is the second batch, right? Next to 200. So it's like a batch by batch processing, right? We could see that very clearly, right? Hence proved, like whatever we discussed, right? Maximum 200 threads will be there, and it's like once you send the 1,000, if you send more than 200, the 201 thread will wait. Out of this 200, any thread completes the response, right? Then that if any thread get free, then it will go and take the next thread and return it. Okay, so this is one of the case why we are going for the React, right? So if it is reactive, what would have been happening, we are in the client side, we are making the thread to sleep, right? So then thread won't be sleeping, right? When, I mean, the application, the server will not make thread to sleep. Instead of sleeping, it will go and ask next thread to, I mean, next request to process, right? So first we send 200 requests, so all 200 threads will be sleeping, right? It will go and pick the next 200. So again, third batch, fourth batch, right? So the sleeping time will get reduced drastically, right? The sleeping time will get reduced drastically in synchronous process. So it will go and thread will be sleeped fully. Once the sleeping time completes, then only the thread will come out of it and process. Okay, but in the case of non-blocking or reactive programming, so it won't be blocking here. It instead of sleeping here, it will go and take the next request and process it. Okay, if is there anything task it can do, it will go and do. So that is what is the biggest benefit with the reactive programming. So, but anyway, I showed that Spring Boot maximum can process 200 threads at a time. If you keep any latency, then you have to wait. The response time will be increased. Okay. So just for demo purpose, I'm just doing this. Don't try this in the real time project. Okay. So this is all about using client and default thread count and issues with the blocking and why we go for non-blocking and reactive program. I hope at least you get some idea.
Yes, Sunil.
Okay. Any questions, team? Hari, Chintesh, Jagadish, Chupudi, Madhu. I think iPhone is Venkat. Right, Venkat? Shiva, Vijay.
Here we are giving this.
Sorry, Vijay. Yeah, Vijay.
No, here we are giving this fixed thread pool count, right, Sunil? Say if I
No.
don't
We
know how
don't.
much. No,
We
no,
don't.
I'm just having a different question, not related to this.
Okay.
No, we are having we know how many requests we get. So
No. We.
somehow we are coming to a count and giving it. Okay. But
Mm.
what if I want to utilize the CPU maximum level and I want to, like in Tomcat, you are saying it is 200. Say if I'm going to run a standalone application or something,
Mm.
that time, how will I know that this is the count I should give? Because I may get some or something and I'm going to run it as a standalone Java application.
Standalone Java application, you can create how many number of threads? Here we created 1,000 threads, right? No problem. If when it is
So,
coming,
so all 1,000.
all 1,000 will not be processed at a time. It depends upon the cores you have. For example, if you have Acta core, then 8 threads will be running parallelly, but it's like very fast, right? The CPU, CPU processing is going to be pretty fast. So all these 1,000 threads will get more randomly, like we'll be getting the time and we'll be executing it. So that is what is the problem. So we cannot solve this problem by increasing thread count. If you increase the more threads, like if you put Tomcat thread 1,000, 2,000, it is like unwanted burden to the CPU. Okay, so instead of efficiently using the threads, if you go for asynchronous model, right? We are going to put an extra burden on the CPU, right? The synchronous model may not be the correct solution for this problem, especially the application perspective I'm talking. Right, standalone you can create how many number of threads you want, it's no problem, but it doesn't mean that all the threads all the threads will be executing parallelly, right? So here we created 1,000 threads, which doesn't mean that all 1,000 threads will get executed in one go. Based on my processor, I'm using i5 core processor. I think it's like 5 cores, like 5 threads will be executing parallelly, but it's like CPU utilization is very high at the time because we created more number of threads, then CPU will work more to schedule these threads, right? So, so especially the scenario what we discussed, that cannot be solved by multi-threading. Asynchronous model, we cannot provide those things. But in standalone way, you can create how many number of threads. It's better to use 4chan tool that can manage this in a better way.
Sunil, I have a question about the thread count actually. So, like in the task manager, I can see the i5 processor is serving around 3,000 threads currently. So, uh, like how do I know how many threads it can serve?
That is what, how many cores you have.
So for i5, like how many cores it will be?
That is a different thing, right? I need to check.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine.
So that comes under networking, right?
Yeah.
But it's fine. It depends upon some generation also. I think i3 has 2 cores, i5 has 4, i7 module also have 4. Some i7 extreme processor have 6 or 8 cores. Right? So it depends upon number of cores you have. But anyway, that is not related to the Java, but it is related to networking. Yeah, it depends upon number of cores you have. Each core like a one CPU, so like multi CPUs.
Yeah, fine. That's fine.
Yeah, Vichi, did I answer your question? You can create any number of threads, no problem. But see, standalone wise, no problem. But server, we will not have control. So maximum, if you increase, it will go up to 500. That's it.
So Sunil, I think there is one method in executor's interface, which if we use right, it will automatically take the maximum number of thread that particular JVM can support. I
You,
didn't remember the exact name. That will give you the
Cached, cached
yeah auto
thread pool, I think.
yeah
Some
some
cached
yeah
thread
one like so with that right it will automatically check how many cores is available, and based on that it will automatically it will give you the best like max thread support. So sometimes people will use that also if we are not
use
sure.
fork giant
Yeah.
pool. Okay, that is standard from Java. From Java 7, so fork giant pool manages perfectly. We don't need to specify how many number of threads we need to create.
Yeah, it will based on the requirement automatically it will create and remove like that.
Yeah.
It will do.
Okay, so all these things I explained just to make you understand why we need reactive programming. Okay, so if it is reactive programming, we don't increase the thread count. We will efficiently use existing threads, right? So all these 200 threads we will properly use it. We don't make these threads to sleep. Okay, if any threading is going into sleeping mode, then we will allocate. I mean, the server will allocate the task. But we no need to worry about it, right? So the way how the servers are going to be created, so it will be like that. So when you make a DB call, so until you get the DB response, the thread will not be say idle. It will go and serve the next thread, right? When you make a service call, until the other service gives the response back, you don't need to make your thread to sleep. It will be doing another thread, right? So we will efficiently use these threads, whatever the threads that Tomcat has, and so we no need to uh, increase the thread count. So our CPU utilization also will be very less. Okay, so let's come back. Let's go to the next topic. Sorry, any questions? Any more questions? And one good thing, it's just an advanced concept like why we need reactive programming and how many threads are there in the Spring Boot default Tomcat server, and how can we prove that exactly 200 threads are there, and how like the concept whatever we discussed, it's like kind of proof we saw now, right? It's like 200 threads per processing, and the main importance we gave it like the requirement for reactive programming. Why the world is moving towards reactive? That's what I just want you to highlight. Okay. Yeah.
Sunil, can't we increase the pool size more than 200 for Spring?
You can do it up to 500. You can do it,
Okay, right.
but maximum 500. You can't go beyond 500.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I told, right? It is not the correct solution. Increasing number of threads will not be the correct solution.
Yeah, right.
What will happen if you put the count thread full size 1,000? What will happen? All these 1,000 threads will go and sleep for 20 seconds, right? Because we are making the each thread to sleep for 20 seconds. So if you increase the thread count to 1,000 also, all 1,000 threads will be in sleeping mode. Unwantedly, we are wasting our resources, right? Unwantedly,
Yeah.
we are wasting our resources
Yeah,
for
process
just for
time.
sleeping purpose.
Yeah.
That is not a good practice. So reactive is the perfect solution for this problem. Okay? That too, especially in the microservices architecture, where we have a limited resources, right? Each microservice will have a limited memory, right? It acts like a small component. So that small component should process with a limited number of threads, right? So like that we should design. So that is the reason why the huge demand for React. Okay, yeah. So next topic is a little advanced topic. Till now, whatever the services we wrote, okay, yeah, fine. If you are not able to understand the problem like fully, it's fine. Just if you get a high level idea. So we are making threads to sleep. in a blocking API. If it is a non-blocking or reactive model, then threads will not be sleeping. The sleeping thread will go and pick the next job, right? The sleeping thread will go and pick the next job. Okay, so that is what I just want you to highlight. But anyway, this is not going to be an interview question. If you explain, if suddenly interviewer is asking why reactive programming, then explain as easily that for sure he will be satisfied. Okay. If any interviewer is asking, if you are an interviewer, then try to ask this question. Okay. If he is explains, fine. If he not explains also, if he like the candidate won't explain also, then check the other areas of like at least he would able to identify and tell something and just it's up to you. Okay. Yeah. Fine. If interviewer is asking, then explain the same way how he explained it, right? Okay. So with this, we are done with all controller way of writing RESTful web services. So the next topic is functional endpoints. Functional endpoints, right? This is something new, like a month's baby in Spring itself, right? No more controller, no more REST controller, no annotation at all. Zero annotation, right? Zero annotations. We can still write RESTful web services. Right? We don't use any annotation. We don't use any annotation, and it's going to be like a full of functional programming, full of functional programming. And this got introduced with Spring MVC version 5.2 last year, August. This feature got released. It's around like August means 4 plus this 5 months, right? 9 months. I think yeah, it's 9 months. I think it's like 10 months. 10 months concept is very new, but it's like going to be the future way of doing the RESTful web service. In Spring, this is what is going to be the future mode, right? How you gonna write RESTful web services in Spring means it's going to be functional model, right? No annotations, no extra processing. But one good thing is it's still the same architecture, right? Whatever they build, these functional endpoints, it's built on top of the existing architecture only. No, sorry, same servlet, same dispatcher servlet, right? Same servlet, same dispatcher servlet. But the only thing which is going to be changed here is instead of request mapping, handler mapping, right? Instead of request mapping, handler mapping, this one. It's going to use function, so router function mapping. Instead of using annotation model, it's going to use functional model. Okay, instead of using request mapping handler adapter, the dispatcher servlet use handler function adapter. Right? It's these two are callbacks of dispatcher servlet. So dispatcher servlet use these two different concepts. Right? So one is annotation. If you write annotation like REST controller, request mapping, get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, it uses the annotation model classes. If you use functional programming, right? No more annotations. It's like fully router. I hope the people who worked on Angular, React would have heard this word, router, right? Router and the function. So the same kind of naming convention they are bringing into Spring. Angular has router, right? So if you enter, it's a single page application. Angular or React, all these are single page application. So based on URL you enter, the corresponding component will be loaded, right? So here also it's kind of same model, right? Here also we will get a router. It's not a page application, it's a service, right? So we will have some same kind of similarity, naming convention, router and the function. So if you want to become a full stack developer, so front end if you learn Angular or React, so where you learn router, component, handler functions, right? So it's easy for you to become a Spring Boot developer with these concepts because for them the naming convention is almost same. But for us, we are doing this REST controller for so many years, so we may feel little difficult, right? So this is an alternative. It's not like it's like a different approach. It's not like alternative. Sorry, it's not alternative. It's a different approach. You can choose any one you want, which one you feel comfortable. You can write REST controller using annotation. You can write the same REST endpoint using functional endpoint. Okay, which one is the old way and one is the latest way. performance wise there is no difference. Like how we have XML configuration, Java configuration, like that you can compare. Right? XML, Java, which one you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and write. But like they have their own plus and minuses, right? Annotations has like these kind of benefits, right? More readability, right? So you can understand the code very easily, right? You can understand the code very easily. Plus you can debug, right? You can debug friendly, right? It's a debug friendly, and it's like easily can be easy maintenance, easy maintenance, right? So like these kind of benefits you want to get it whenever we are using annotation controls. But when we go to functional model, right? So it's like new way of doing. It's not that much easy. Like not that much readable. Not that much debugging also little difficult, right? And maintenance also little costly, but still it is good to learn functional endpoints, right? It's good to learn. Like this is something new. So maybe in the upcoming years they may add new features to this, right? New features, and maybe in the future everybody will use functional endpoints only. Right? So we have this kind of evolution in Spring for so many years. When they started with XML. Later they introduced annotations. When Valve started using annotations, right? They slowly migrated to annotation. Now we are using Java configuration. Of course, we are writing everything with Java configuration, right? So zero XML. Maybe in the future everybody may write functional endpoints, right? Maybe in the future. Even though there is no performance difference between XML and Java configuration, we feel comfortable writing Java configuration. That's why we are choosing, right? And Spring itself is recommending. So Spring is not recommending to write functional endpoints. It's up to you. What you feel comfortable, you can choose. But for sure, this is going to be the latest. Maybe in the next few years, everybody will write like this. Everybody will write the code which machine can understand, not right. Yeah, functional coding, it is little difficult, right, to understand. Yeah. Document. So web servlet. So this is what we are learning now, right? Web servlet in your Spring framework. So there are two ways you can write controllers. One is annotated controllers. This is there for so many years. Controller, REST controller. There is something new called functional endpoint, right? Functional endpoint. So no more controllers, no more annotations. Okay. Then when it is coming to the question what to use, what not to use, it's up to you what to use. Okay. It's up to you what to use, what not to use. But the code looks completely different, right? The code looks completely different. And yeah, so I'll show you project reactor. Don't worry, this is not going to, we're not going to learn now. It will take some time. Like reactor, we will learn something. We have to go here, getting started, introducing reactor. So yeah, so this is what is the technique, right? Reactive programming. So reactive is just like functional plus, right? Function programming plus some extra benefits. So it's up to you what do you want to use, right? So if it is not functional programming, then we call it as a imperative model writing course, right? If it is not a functional programming, uh, yeah. So it's going to be imperative like that we will call. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we will see this tomorrow. Functional endpoints, functional endpoints. Okay, I don't start this today. It's going to be a fresh topic, and yeah. So tomorrow you have to be ready, like get some chocolates. Okay, it's like more sleeping day tomorrow. Like again, one more time, completable feature. Okay, completable feature day. And one concept which made you confused is that, right? What is that? Method injection. Mixing two scopes. Method injection. So get some uh, mix or something which will avoid you from sleep.
Water bottle.
Water bottle, have a strong tea, right? Very, very strong tea, very strong coffee if you would like to have it, because this is completely something new. Whatever you're gonna learn, something new. But like Chintesh, you don't get panic because this is something new. If now, like tomorrow, everybody on the same page, experience or without experience, everybody on the same floor.
Actually, Chintesh has to work on this only because new
Yeah.
generation has to adapt it.
Yes, for Chintesh, this is recommended. Because
Compulsory
when it is,
for him.
yeah, whoever comes to functional endpoints who has 10 years experience in annotation will become zero here, and who freshly come into the market is zero. So will be everybody on the same floor, except like few concepts like like writing the business logic. It's may change, but that concepts, right, will be little different. So yeah, for you this is suitable, even though it makes you feel little uncomfortable. Start with this because future is this is going to be the future. But learn the REST controller also. If it is an existing project, like still people are using controller, REST controller only. It's like very few who are like want to intentionally wanted to write functional program.
Ultimately, in interviews they will ask the old thing only because no one is that much
Yeah, interviewer may not be
experienced, right?
knowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So you have to.
I think people are comfortable with reactive programming. In interviews, they will ask.
No.
That's not everyone.
No, because reactive has been there from maybe 4 to 5 years in the industry. So
No.
people are no
This is
reactive in this.
new to Java, right? Okay.
Yeah, it is new to Java, but in other languages it has already been there quite for
If
a
I
long time.
if I go to
Yes.
if I go to
No,
version 5.1.16, right? So here you can't able to see that concept because that itself it got introduced with 5.2. So here is the documentation of 5.1.16. So you can't see the functional. Okay, so you have only
no,
annotated.
what you are saying is correct because in Python and all it's already been there, but in Spring and Java, right? People still just now started using because
Yeah.
I never see anyone asking the functional thing question. They're still asking controller versus REST controller and request mapping things and all. No one moved this part. Mostly might
Then it will
be.
be.
Which
It might
conference
be.
you attended?
Okay, fine. Okay, no more controversy, guys. Okay, it's up to the interviewer. If he knows, he will ask. If he doesn't know, he
That's
will ask.
that's what I'm saying. It's your luck. who
Okay
you got.
then.
Correct.
Okay, then see you tomorrow at 8:15. So don't miss tomorrow's session. Okay, it's very important. Okay, thank you, guys. Yeah, any questions? Hello.
Nothing. We are good.
No,
Okay.
Sunil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, team.
Thanks, Sunil.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Sunil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.